Welcome to the Recruitment Curry Show. I'm your host, Ketan Gajjar. This podcast has been created to cut through the noise around outsourcing and business process management. Every conversation in here is about real experiences, what scales, what breaks, and what most people won't tell you. Today, I'm joined by none other than the UK recruiting legend, Chris O'Connell. Chris, welcome to the show.
Gessen, thank you for that very warm introduction. I'll take that every day of the week. Appreciate it.
Love it. Chris, most people in the UK industry, they know you, but it'll be good for you to share a bit about yourself, your expertise in the industry, and what are you currently helping agencies with?
Delighted. Yeah, thanks again, Ketan. So 27 years recruitment experience. I started out the S3 group. Most people know who they are. They're a 1.5 billion pound recruitment business
Yeah.
across 60 offices in 20 countries, 4,000 people in there. Big, one of the biggest recruitment businesses out there. I started out as a resourcer, became a consultant, and then was the fastest person to get to 30 contractors in the whole group. Was the worldwide top biller across the whole group, billing nearly £1 million a year. Placing change transformation contractors, worked in different offices, grew teams, got promoted several times, and really learnt the art of recruitment. I mean, S3 was one of the best training grounds there is. It's made literally hundreds, if not thousands, of millionaires and business owners. So it's got an exemplary track record. I was there for 5 years, left, set up my own business in 2003, and completely bootstrapped that in 9 years from nothing, got that to 100 people, £25 million annual turnover, three offices, won 14 industry awards. I was Southwest Entrepreneur of the Year. An incredible business, and many of the people that used to work for me have gone on to build even bigger businesses, which I'm very, very proud of. And people still say to this day it's one of the best recruitment businesses of its time. After 9 years and getting it to that level, I wanted to expand internationally into Europe and USA and Australia. But my business partner walked in, we were 50-50 partners, and said, I want to cash my chips in, I want to leave, which put the business in a difficult position. So we had to find a buyer. A private equity firm came in and bought his 50%, and it's been well documented on LinkedIn. I've been very open and vocal about that. I had to take that private equity vehicle to court because of the way they handled it, and they tried to get rid of my people and tried to oust me and tried to basically steal the business, for want of a better term.
Mhm.
It took me 4 years, cost me £600,000 in legal fees, and with 2 weeks to go before getting into the High Court, I had to do a deal out of court for peanuts because I ran out of money. They knew that, so I lost the business. I lost the £25 million business. I was bankrupt, effectively homeless, got divorced, lost access to my children. So in the space of 18 months, my whole world had literally collapsed emotionally, financially, psychologically, and also I lost my purpose. So you can imagine what that must have been like. Very difficult and dark time for me. It took me sort of 4 or 5 years to even recover. So about 4 or 5 years ago, I was then invited onto LinkedIn to do a webinar of my choice. And I chose vulnerability and leadership. And I was very open and talked about what happened and also the importance of being humble and being vulnerable. And since then, kind of pivoted, and my LinkedIn profile and my brand has gone very well. I've got over 75,000 followers on LinkedIn. I get millions of views a month. I've been a guest on over 100 podcasts. I've also hosted my own podcast for the 100 episodes. And I've helped over 60 recruitment businesses build, scale, and grow. So what I do now as a NED and an advisor is work on vision, mission, values, business development, pretty much everything that's involved in scaling businesses and selling businesses. And I'm really enjoying myself.
Wow, that's an amazing story of obviously going through the rough time and then bouncing back, and which is what you often talk about as well on your posts on LinkedIn. And
Yeah.
really inspiring for lots of people out there that you can recover as long as you're ready and then you've got the will to recover.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think my childhood was very difficult, but I think if anything, that gave me the resilience and it gave me the determination and the belief and the sort of capability to stand on my own 2 feet. And often it's not what happens to us, it's how we respond. It's a very well-known statement, but some of those dark times actually at the time were awful, but have shaped me and forged me to the person I am today. And in many aspects, I can blame the private equity people, I can blame X, Y, and Z, but also I have to take accountability for it as well. And it's about how you learn from these things. And so I'm grateful. I won't necessarily wish it on many people, but I'm grateful.
Totally. The buck stops at us at the end of the day. We can blame anybody and everybody, but then is it going to help? Actually,
No,
no.
exactly, exactly, and that's the same in recruitment. As we know, when we're dealing with people, we're not selling a book or watch, a car, a pen. People lie. They
Yeah,
have egos. They change their mind, and often, even at the very end, you feel everything's going to go well, and something happens, and it's very hard not to take that personally. And it was almost a daily or weekly occurrence that something like that happened, and you have to be strong, and you have to look at. I always think if a deal goes in, it's well done to you. If a deal doesn't go in, it's your responsibility. You can blame the candidate, you can blame the client, you can blame whatever. And sometimes it's out of your hands, but the mentality of what could I do better is really important, I think.
totally, totally. And which is what we want to talk about today. And then your LinkedIn post probably about, I think about 2 weeks back, talking about back office respect and then front office
Yeah.
performance,
Mm.
sparked quite a lot of engagement, like your other posts as well. But this specific post, what inspired you to write about it? Was it a situation or a client situation that you came
Yeah,
across?
I think throughout my career I've always been like that. My mentality and my mantra is not a deal till the money's in the bank, but in my previous business, like the big one that I built, after a period of time, I was kind of responsible for all the contract revenue. My business partner was responsible for the perm revenue, and I think he was away or something like that for a couple of weeks. I went over to look after the perm side for a bit, and the guy did a deal. He went, great. I said, great, that's brilliant. When does he start? And he said, well, 5 or 6 weeks, as soon as he can hand his notice in. And that lit the touch paper for me. And it's like, well, as we know, time kills deals. The longer the time between confirming the deal and the person starts, the more chances are that can fall out of bed. But also, it's about getting that person started as quickly as possible. But then also, the earliest the person can start, the earliest we can invoice. And we always paid our commission on, and this is what we didn't at the time, but we changed our paying our commission on the month after the money is received. But ultimately, if we don't get the right invoicing details at the start, payments can be delayed. More often than not, we blame the client for late payments. More often than not, the reason why the client pays us late is because we sent the invoice to the wrong person.
Yep.
All this kind of stuff. So cash flow is probably just as, if not more important, the actual revenue that you bring in. Businesses fail and fold, not because they haven't done enough deals, because they haven't collected the cash
Cash.
quickly. And this all transpires to treating your back office with the same, if not more, respect than the front office, because making sure your contracts are compliant, making sure that your contractors are paid on time, all this kind of stuff has a dramatic effect. Without a good operational back office team, the front office can be his best thing since sliced bread. It's about how quickly we can do all that kind of stuff. I can't emphasize the importance of it enough. And if you haven't got the capability, either train people in-house or get some external help. It's really important.
Absolutely. So obviously, some of the points you covered on the post, and I made some notes here, is and then just to sort of summarize, one is admin teams they are totally ignored. Compliance as an
Mm.
afterthought because you've done the deal, but you haven't got the required information beforehand.
Yeah,
Data is not updated. Placements they're not locked. Even today, after so
don't.
many years, with
Honestly.
all the fancy CRMs,
Yeah,
they're not logged. Candidates are not shared. Consultants they're too busy to follow the process because they're supposed to
yeah.
be billing. And then obviously there's a behavior of working in silos. Which of these are most dangerous to a recruiting
Well,
agency?
I would say all of them. I had an incident last week where a client sent a very senior candidate to a client and just introduced the candidate in an email with no terms of business and no CV footer, leaving them, and the business totally exposed. So I think it's almost a sense of entitlement that the sales team think that all this stuff is going to magically materialize. I think the most important thing is the leader has to set the tone with this. He has to educate and consult with the sales team and demand the respect. So if the back office team are requesting information, that's just as important as a client requesting information, just as important as a CEO requesting information. It's treating it with that level of of respect. So I think that's the headline of it, and the rest would fall into shape.
Absolutely. It's top down in terms of how you treat each department, rather than, okay, fine, this is sales. It's very
Yeah,
important. They're the ones who are bringing the cash. Back
yeah,
office, you just do your processing, which is sort of the trend that I've seen as well, because working with agencies for 20 years, when you talk to business leaders there, it's a pity at sometimes, because even the folks who are working in back office, they are sort of unsung heroes,
yeah.
and it always pains. So why do founders sort of underestimate the impact of this specific element?
Because I think most founders are glorified recruitment consultants anyway. And there's a big difference between being a good biller and being a good leader and a good business owner. And there's a
Yeah,
huge transition. And I think it's down to their inexperience as a business owner, and they tend to find these things out when they've been burnt or when things don't go well. So I think that sometimes you have to learn the hard way, but primarily it's their own, not ignorance is the wrong word, but their own inexperience.
true, true. And I think which is where a lot of support comes from the mentorship, uh, of,
Yeah.
one is being surrounded by a similar ecosystem where, what are your strengths and weaknesses, and then you want to go
Yeah, oh,
out.
absolutely. I couldn't agree more. When I built my massive business, I was great at driving inspiration, motivation, process, sales, everything else. I wasn't particularly good on some of the operational stuff, and I hired a very, very strong COO that plugged my gaps brilliantly, and he would be an expert at looking at data like CVs to interviews, interview to placement ratios, and then going, Chris, look at this information. Oh, right, Gary over there is very low on, and it really made us identify the gaps and the plugs quickly. So, absolutely, as owners, we can't be all things to all people. We're basically a salesperson, a business development, a brother, mother, counselor, whatever. We can't be all these things. So, delegate, understand your strengths, and plug the gaps.
Certainly. So for a boutique agency, because I've seen this, from my experience, this is mostly agencies which are small to mid-sized, who really struggle, or probably are unaware of a certain gap that exists, especially with middle and back office.
Yeah,
Uh, what
yeah,
what would you suggest, especially because I've seen, uh, there's a role overlap in a lot of companies where you got a resourcer who's also doing a bit of invoicing, and then a resourcer who's also doing a bit of compliance.
Hmm.
What sort of structure would you suggest in terms of engaging and defining the roles for respective people in a boutique
Well,
agency?
I think you've hit the nail on the head. If there's a small number of people, I think it's understanding what your role is as the CEO first, and having clearly defined JDs at all levels, if you're a resource or a consultant. But I think if you've got sort of less than 5 people, less than 10 people, you still would probably need a good operations manager or office manager to take that burden away. And they're not particularly expensive for the sake of, I don't know, in the UK, probably 35,000 pounds for someone to sort of take all that off you is absolutely money well spent. So um, I wouldn't try to cloud roles, although I would be putting in process such like every time a deal is done, a placement letter has to go out to the candidate and the client. And things like a pro forma invoice or a deal sheet, when a deal is done, the consultant does have to fill out invoice contact details, email addresses, mobile numbers. That's then passed to the operations team. They can then implement that. So put triggers and systems. You can't close that deal off on your system until these things are done. So there is some elements that the sales team should be responsible for to help the overall outcome, I think.
Certainly, and then that's where, one of the gaps, or one of the reflections that don't reflect on the balance sheet is the amount of, one is time lost, in
Yes.
managing situations, good, bad,
Yeah.
ugly, all of them, and then two is recorrecting them, the post-mortem of going through it, and then the amount of time that you invest is almost going to be, if not more, equivalent to paying somebody to do that job exclusively
Yeah.
for you, isn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And but also you've got to be seen to be doing these things yourself. So often I would suggest that particularly in boutique firms, often the owner is still responsible for doing some of the sales as well. So if you're not putting things on a database and doing things, you're asking people to do things you're not doing yourself. there's going to be an issue.
Absolutely. If you're leading, then obviously you want to walk the talk, not
Yeah,
just
absolutely, absolutely.
to.
And if you don't know how to do it, get someone like my clients love me, not just for my experience, but I'll have a meeting with my client and their team and their sales team, and the meeting could be the best meeting in the world. You can have the best training session in the world, but if you're not following that up with actions, and what I found is with my work is that I'm working directly with the CEOs. They love the accountability of speaking to me every single week. It's almost like they feel like it motivates them. Like as an example, I've got my own personal trainer. I go to the gym 4 times a week. Without him, I wouldn't go. I would not go.
Yeah,
So I think everyone needs a coach. Everyone needs to be accountable. Everyone needs to follow up. And that's what it's about. Even with sales as well, you send out a good CV, you make a good phone call to a client. But if you're not following that up, it's so important.
absolutely. Totally on board. So, what would a good compliance culture look like in a boutique agency?
Yeah, well, I'm doing this right now for 2 or 3 clients. I think I would sit down with the CEO and understand what their current process is now, and then draw up a behavioural compliance checklist. So things like every CV that goes out the door has to have a CV footer out on, sounds basic. Every interaction CV send into a job placement has to be implemented on the system. When we make a placement, needs to be a deal sheet with deal information on it. When we're sending out an invoice, there needs to be a 7-day, 14-day, 21-day, and 28 little nudge reminder to your client to make sure all these. So it's not easy to answer that question verbally because there's so many. But I,
Yeah,
I would lay out a proper chart of operations sales from almost from cradle to grave and have a checklist that you can't fail on.
certainly. And then, as a part of the checklist, I've seen some of those working with the agencies. One of them hits on the data, the internal
Yeah,
database, and the quality of the data.
absolutely.
Now there are plenty of tools out there who promise to cleanse your data and do everything, but there's still agencies who are not going to be up to date with their internal database.
Yeah.
It obviously does not give you a relative number on your balance sheet, but from your experience, what kind of impact does that have on the performance of the agency?
That's a really, really good point. You can have the best database in the world, but it's only as valuable and as important and as influential as the quality of that data. So it has a massive effect on the valuation of your business. Acquirers or people joining your business, they want to see ratios, they want to see number of contacts added. Is the business growing? Are we reliant on just 1 or 2 customers, or do we have lots of repeat business coming in? And you want to be in a position where you get a good candidate and exactly where to put that candidate because you've got hot lists on your database. Conversely, when a role comes in, you're not creating new candidate pools every time. You've got coded tag candidates that can. So it's beneficial in terms of the valuation of your business because there's a strong element of what's your IP actually worth. Secondly, it can help you attract more quality people because they're walking into a robust system. And thirdly, I just think that you can win more customers from it as well. You can actually, these days, a lot of boutique agencies, they're winning big statement of works, they're winning 40, 50, 60 person projects because they can demonstrate to the client that this is how we work. These are our candidates, this is our process, this is a hot list, this is our network. And I think there's so many reasons why it's important.
Certainly, and it is the database, isn't it? In the early days, that was sold as the biggest asset of a
Yeah.
recruiting agency.
Yeah, it was. But also on the flip side, it was you're right. It was like we've got 400 heads, we cover everything else. I think that's less headcount is less important, but where boutique agencies are winning big pieces of work is it's the human to human relationship, but being able to properly articulate your depth of understanding of the market. And if the client knows they're dealing with the top expert in the sector, that's all that matters. And the only way to do that is to demonstrate your candidate and your market knowledge.
Totally, and then that sort of brings us to back to our original point of back office support, respect, and then front office performance.
Yeah.
So, what behaviors from leadership sort of build or break this respect? Uh, Top down,
Yeah.
you mentioned.
I think it goes back to my point earlier, Kitten, about not asking someone to do something you're not prepared to do yourself. I think a leader needs to lead from the front and get into the weeds initially and learn every single process himself or herself. So therefore, they know the best practice. I think it's communication as well. How we speak internally to our people is usually how we would speak externally. So if we're doing everything on email or WhatsApp, for example, what will happen is the team will then only speak to their clients on email and WhatsApp. You want to encourage face-to-face meetings. You want to encourage um, Teams or video calls. So that's best practice is sometimes not what we say, is how we say it. And I've been guilty in the past of sending emails at quite strange times in the mornings to my team, and I learned the hard way. An email can be misconstrued, can't it? So it's really important that we also understand what leadership hat to wear, when and to whom.
Certainly.
Some people would crumble at quite direct feedback. Some people like that. So it's not about watering down what you are, what you're trying to say. It's identifying that. But also, if there needs to be consequences, there needs to be, if you're clear with your communication and people continually do things against that, there has to be a recourse on that.
Yeah.
Because what tends to happen, I think, in a difficult market, people set expectations, they don't happen. It's all okay. That just continues. So it's really important that you reinforce that, I think.
So again, obviously going back to your original point of follow-ups, even as a leader, one is walk the
Mm.
talk, two is communicate and then follow up. And then
Yeah.
that's the other point on here is, especially now with hybrid and remote work culture,
Yes, absolutely.
how can agencies break the silos? Because you got your top performers in terms of your sales and billings, and then you got your middle and back office as well, and that collaboration is what makes or breaks an agency.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think if you're remote, then I would insist on at least one sort of gathering a week or a month in person. If you can't do it in person, you have to have online huddles, and there has to be an agenda. I think sometimes I see these company meetings, and they're a bit like having a coffee in a coffee shop. They're very loose, they're very, and I'm all for collaboration, I'm all for kind of nice environments. But if there's no sort of agenda, no structure and no follow-up, everything can be misconstrued. So I think it's getting that balance right between it not being too formal, but I actually think it's very hard to be too formal if the content's good and it benefits the people. So again, it's the follow-up, it's the communication, and it's the consistency of your style. What tends to happen is founders get quite loose for their meetings, or they allow people to do all these things, and then the resentment builds up, and then they'll blow a gasket and they'll go crazy on these people, and it's too late by then. So remote work, I think what over since COVID has been a number of years ago. There's a big influx, a big renaissance of the office now coming back in, isn't there? So that's helpful. But if you can't physically get into the office because that's the way you're structured, I think have your regular nice coffee side chats online, but also once a week have a clear structured meeting with deliverables so that everyone knows, right, I need to be on form for this.
Totally, because that's the whole objective of you running a business, isn't it? Or even a desk. That where are we in terms of obviously the CVs going out, any support you need from the middle office, back office, any feedback that you have, even if it's a 5 minute
Yeah.
structure.
Yeah, I always think that it's different for each business, but the Friday catch up probably should be around what your achievements are for the week, a summary of what you've done. The Monday, and you interrogate that. The Monday is these are Monday morning meeting is these are the three to five things I'm going to commit to this week. I'm going to do this, and this. And that's how you should do it. So what tends to happen, I've seen in some cases on Monday, is just you sit there and you just review the job you've got on. You have a nice chat. Oh, that didn't go well. And that's it. There's no expectation. There's no parameters. So I'd say Friday wash up summary of what you've done, good, bad, or indifferent. Monday short, sharp. This is what I'm going to do. And you just do that.
You hit the nail there, because that's exactly the next point where your views will really matter there. So what KPIs should the operations team track versus consultants versus the leadership?
Yeah, I think businesses recruitment is built on relationships. So how do you build relationships? It's not necessarily the number of phone calls. You can make 100 calls to a butcher, baker, and a candle maker and get one job. I could make one call to a CEO and get three jobs,
Yeah.
So it's about the quality of your outcomes. So I think it's a mixture of quality and quantity, but I'll be measuring number of actual tangible conversations that they're having, number of different touch points as well. So I implement this with my client as well. So with the advent of all this AI and all these wonderful automation tools, I've seen clients, yeah, but we've sent them three emails now and they haven't responded. If you're constantly sending the same type of communication, that's wrong. So a blend of email, voice note, phone call, specking out, LinkedIn, meeting, online, the different types of touch points. So conversations, different types of touch points. And this is going to sound very obvious, but if you don't send a CV, you don't get an interview. So how many good quality CVs are we sending out? I always believe not blind mail shots, but if you send a good quality candidate to the right manager at the right time, you're going to
Yeah.
open up the door. So it's sending out good quality mail shots and following that up. Conversations, touch points, CVs, and then things like perhaps interviews as well. How many interviews you're getting? No more than that, really. On the thought.
Sure. Sure. No, that's wonderful. So I'll again circle back to our original point about the back office is the front office. Uh,
Yes.
why this is not a specific leadership question, but obviously it correlates to every leader working in the industry. So why does the industry still treat operations as a secondary?
I think it's a sales arrogance. I think it's inexperience, it's naivety, and it's a bit like marketing as well. I think marketeers get the rough end of the stick. Salespeople think marketing are just useless, and marketing people think sales are arrogant. But I think the back office, I just think it's a lack of understanding, and oh, they can do that. They're beneath me, and it's not on my watch. I think it's a really critical point you've highlighted here, and you've said it three or four times. I think it's probably one of the biggest Achilles heels in businesses. They do all these things after the event, and sometimes it's harder. Then you've got to unwire all these bad sort of thinking about it, and all the process you've got to unwind and start again. And it's the longer you leave it, the harder it gets.
Totally, totally. And then that's the another question, which is, pretty candid. So how does the poor operational respect show up in client experience and the cash flow?
Well, as you've explained it, it's brilliant. So your cash flow is only as good as your internal processes. So you can't. What tends to happen is that you end up having arguments with clients, or you're chasing money, or you're sending chaser letters out to clients. And actually, that's because you haven't done your job properly in the first place. But also, that goes back to the quality of your business. I think contingent is dying slowly. It's much easier these days. If you're operating, there's a lot of generalist recruiters out there, which I don't agree with. The more specialist you are, the more knowledgeable you are, the more confidence you're going to get. So if you have a consultant who's niche, who works in the particular segments, they can then pitch exclusive and retained, and therefore you can get your money a lot more quicker. So it all stems back to who are we? We're not just recruitment consultants, we're experts. Less is more. Know your market, get your database right, stay in your lane, and then pitch your clients with conviction and knowledge, and win the business exclusively, get interview slots, or get retained anyway. And half of this is dealt with.
Totally. You already answered in a way, but I'll still ask. So what happens when admin, operations, and compliance they become strategic instead of reactive?
Well, I think you end up getting your money a lot more quickly.
Okay.
The whole business is therefore more strategic. And the quicker you can recover your money, the more and better investment decisions you can make. And being reactive in business, in sales, in life is never a good thing anyway. It's about being responsive. And I think there's a respect. You attract more clients like that as well. You end up sort of being able to then negotiate higher fees because this is the way that we work here. We only work on exclusive or retained, and these are our terms. And it goes back to setting your stall out. And I think when the market was difficult and tight, it exposed a lot of people, and they were sort of grabbing things and doing things at very low margins. But the people who stood their ground and got all these things in place they're the ones that are actually growing. So there's so many benefits to it. Absolutely.
And then that again takes us back to the point you highlighted about the leadership lens initially. It's more about
Yeah.
human plus leadership. You are involved in the process rather than just involved
Yes.
in the transactional bits.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think as a leader, you need to create future leaders as well. So you're an exemplar, you're a role model, and a team is a reflection of yourself. I always say it goes back to the point when the business is going well, that's down to my team. When the business isn't going down well,
So
that's
true.
down to me. And you've got to have that. The reason why that works is that everyone else will be the same as well, which is exactly what you want.
So then why do the consultants they resist uh, process?
Because
This
they think it's time consuming, they don't think it's going to make any money, that they feel like it's not their job. And actually, some of the things that I implement, how I deliver it, they see it as, oh, I'm not asking you to work any harder. I'm actually asking you to work smarter. And actually getting these processes done at the start means you're not doing it at the end. And
and
actually, when you actually explain it properly, it saves them time, doesn't cost them more time.
so it's up to the leaders to change it, isn't it?
100% it comes from the leader, 100%. So I actually think that more often than not, if you're not making enough sales, the answer isn't always BD. It is you need to do that as well. But actually, let's look at everything. Let's look at everything. Let's look at our back office. Let's look at our invoicing structure. Let's look at our payment terms. Let's look at our terms of business. Let's look at our operations. Let's look at how we communicate, all this kind of stuff. So yeah, absolutely.
So from your perspective, what should the agency owners stop doing immediately?
Stop trying to be all things to all people. Slow down. Potentially get someone in who's got an external lens. Because what tends to happen is that people, owners, they tend to be in transactional mode. Where's the next deal coming from? How can I make some money? How can I pay the bills? And you need that to an extent. I help you, and what I suggest that people do is zoom out and try and be transformational. Apply 30% of your time to strategic transformation items. Carve out your diary and look at a business plan, look at the strategy, look at the operation, look at all this kind of stuff and execute that. Because otherwise, you're forever being living hand to mouth. You might be quite good on a monthly basis, but you're never going to move the dial forward unless you look at, right, strategically over the next 3 months, what are the key strategic things I need to do to get us to the next level? It could be enhancing my back office operations. It could be having a focus on how many contacts we have on our database now. How many do you want in 3 months? It could be how many contacts on our database haven't had an email, haven't had a touch point. What is the quality of our data? How much is repeat? All these strategic things that people think, oh yeah, but I haven't got time to do that. They're the ones that are going to change the game for you.
Now, because if you haven't got the time right now, you won't have time in 3 months and then 3
Absolutely.
years and so on. So you're gonna be stuck where you are.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. Absolutely.
So what does a healthy culture between consultants and operations team look like?
I think probably regular, even if it's once a month, regular company-wide meetings around that visibility of what and an understanding of what the role entails in the back office and the importance of getting that right information. I think it's treating everyone in the same. There's no hierarchy to that extent. There's no inferiority or superiority. The back office team is treated with the same, if not more, respect than the front office team. And it's getting that communication right first. Once they understand that, I think is really important. So what I would suggest is that the back office team does have incentives around how quickly they get the money in, how quickly they get contracts back. They are included on holiday trips or whatever. They are included in acknowledgements of it's not salesperson of the year, it's person of the year and person of the month. And well done to Gary and Jane in the back office team. They recovered 4 pieces of invoices this month. Congratulations, they hit their target. Is all these things where which has enabled Gary to then buy his new car, whatever it might be. It's that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because especially in the contract and the temp environment, you got the biggest bottleneck is references, for example.
Yeah,
And then you got your middle office team who is chasing references, getting those details in, making sure
absolutely.
that they're in date, and that's when the candidate is workable or starts the contract. At the same time,
Yeah.
obviously, with tech contractors, you got to make sure that all those documents are processed on your clients' portals for them to evaluate and then give a go ahead. So totally on board with that. A quick fire round here is, what is one process every recruitment agency should fix first?
I one of the things is probably candidate acquisition. So we've talked a lot about the back office. There's loads more I can do with that. We can talk about pro forma invoices there quickly, where I think it's important we could send out a pro forma invoice before the person starts. Right, Mr. Client, um, we're delighted to confirm the placement of Gary starting in 4 weeks' time. This is our understanding of the invoice, the start date, everything else. If these details are incorrect, please let us know. The amount of time that the client comes, actually, it's the wrong email. So before they even start, you've got the invoice. So that's
Yeah,
the real problem on there. But candidate acquisition, if I go into most businesses and I say to them, right, when you've got a job on, what are the top three things you do first? I get different answers from every single person in the same business. Some people go to the database, some people write an advert, some people go to the hot list. It's like it's all completely different. You find that some people are really good at Boolean searches, some people aren't. It's harmonizing that, having a working charter. But also, it's things like a qualified candidate isn't someone that can just do the job. A qualified candidate is someone who can do the job. You've got 3 or 4 references from them. You understand where they're interviewing. So it's that depth of qualification, having proper candidate qualification forms, proper job spec forms. I think the amount of badly qualified job descriptions and badly qualified candidates is I've seen some agencies only qualify candidates on email. So it's
wow,
putting some of these checklists and these charters in place that you can't fail on.
totally. And then I think there's one point there because a lot of people still believe pre-screen and pre-qualification are the same thing, but
Yeah,
they're totally different things. And the point about getting details on the email is as good as just a basic pre-screen. That, are you looking for a job?
yeah,
Yes, no. I
yeah.
think that's all it says. Unless you have an in-depth conversation and seek every bit of information.
The amount of deals that have gone through the floor through counter offers or something around. So when was the last time you spoke to the candidate? Oh, last week. So he's really up for it. He said he loves the role. Where else is he interviewing? I don't
I
know.
don't know.
Things like that. And also with your client, it's like they give the intention and the indication that your candidate is their primary choice. But sometimes they say, well, actually, we are going to offer it to another candidate internally because we haven't asked the question, who else is in the frame?
In the frame,
We,
yeah,
we go on this assumption too long because people, as I said, people are very good at telling you what you want to hear, but you've got to interrogate it. You've got to close every door. So it's never ending.
totally. A compliance mistake that still shocks you.
Um, so I would say um, deal details. Who's the right invoice contact? What are the payment terms? Sometimes the the front office team are like, yeah, well, he starts on the 1st of February. Just pop an invoice over then. So it's the importance of all that kind of stuff and making sure we've got like the right even the right candidate details as well.
Sure, sure. Candidate sharing, underrated or overhyped?
Um, Underrated. If you've got the right culture, it should engender a culture of sharing because when you scratch my back, I scratch yours. I've seen it work the other way where people literally are hiding candidates. It's unbelievable.
And one word to describe high-performing ops teams.
Um, Diligent and they inspect as well. I'd say there's two there. They challenge.
Awesome, awesome. So this one is mandatory now. Curry or coffee?
I never used to like coffee, but I love coffee. But you can't be a good curry, mate. Come on, you can't be a good curry. What's your favorite curry?
Well, I'm a vegetarian, so
Ah, yeah,
anything which is buttery, makhani is the favorite
nice.
curry. Yeah.
Yeah, I like a jail
Apologies.
crazy, but yeah, it's all good.
Awesome, awesome. So, Chris, obviously, know you are very well known on LinkedIn. You got a number of thousands of people on following, but that's where people can connect with you, isn't it? On LinkedIn.
LinkedIn is absolutely the best place. Yeah, my website is basemindset.com. There's some good products on there that might be helpful, that are quite relatively low cost. But if you want to talk to me as well, email me or get me on LinkedIn. Absolutely.
Amazing, amazing. So, Chris, thank you so much for being on the Recruitment Curry show. Really pleasure, a delight to have this conversation, and you have a fantastic day.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, Keith. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.